Hi, my name is Victoria Icenhower, and I am a self love scientist, not your average yoga instructor, and women's embodiment coach. I'm so excited to share with Pearl today.
Hey everybody, this is Pearl and welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Pearl. And I am a naturopathic mental fitness life coach, as well as the owner of Women's Successful Living, where I help you find your superpowers within by becoming the shiro that you are. And today we have a great guest today. Our guest is Victoria Icenhower. She's known as the Self Love Scientist. She's checked all the boxes according to society expectations of that successful lifestyle. She had a degree, marriage, home, dog, except the only box she wasn't checking was herself. So today we're going to talk about how after a few rock bottoms and taking a big leap of faith, Victoria started life all over on her own terms. This leap including launching her own coaching business, divorcing, moving, and reclaiming back her superpowers. So I'm excited to have Victoria on today with us. And Victoria, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pearl. I'm so stoked to be here and connect and share with your audience my story.
Yay. And we were talking before you came on the show, you're up in the DC area. So I know right now we're recording this, it's around February. So tell us, how's your weather been this year?
Oh my gosh, this weather is so, it's very random. Today especially has been gorgeous. It's literally a tease for spring. It's in the 60s. The sky is beautifully blue. There's a breeze. Perfect. Like for me, it's a great hoodie day.
Great hoodie day. And if I remember right, when I used to live in Virginia, we would get those last minute February snow dumps. So hopefully no snow dumps come for you guys soon. So I love what you call yourself, the self-love scientist. And I just love that phrase. I've talked to many people on here about self-care and the way you described it. And then to say you didn't check your own box. I mean, how many of the women sitting listening to this can all raise their hand? If you're driving, be careful, but agree that we forget to check our box. We talk about that here first, that, we check the boxes for everybody else. We pour into everybody else's cup, or like I like to say, we put our cape on everybody else, but we forget to put it on ourselves. And so, Victoria, walk us through that. Like, what was going on in your life, in your world, when all of a sudden it hit you that you weren't checking your own box?
Well, it was about 3 years ago. I was working, I got my degree. I was like checking everything. I was like, cool, I did that. And I was working in it's kind of a little bit of a toxic, very masculine workplace. And I was just kind of going with it. Like, this is my job. This is my career now. This is my purpose. Right. So, this job allowed me a couple of, let me see, got my whole words mixed up. Okay. So with this job, I was able to travel a lot. So I'm very grateful for that. And at the same time, I could not keep up with the lifestyle. It was a lot of partying, it was a lot of drinking, a lot of late nights. And finally, I got to the point where I was like, I can't keep up. I can't keep doing this because this lifestyle was affecting the way I was showing up. Not only in myself, I could feel myself getting sick. It was affecting my relationships. It was affecting my work ethics. And so one day, instead of joining the others for a party, I spontaneously signed up for a yoga class. And it was on the beach. I get there, I'm nervous because I'm doing this thing on my own. And I met the instructor, and she has like this beautiful brown eyes and brown hair. And she looks at me and she says my name. She's like, hello, Victoria. It's so like, I'm so glad you're here. And the way she looked at me, and then she's like, it looks like you're carrying a lot of things that aren't for you. And it was like being seen for the first time. And I all I could do, and there might be some people who resonate, but you know how you kind of fake it and you smile like, I'm fine. I'm really just fine. I had a really hard time telling her that. And I wanted to, because I was trying to be strong. Like, oh no, like I carry my own, I'm fine. And I couldn't lie to her. And so I kind of like teared up, and I was like, I'm just really happy to be here, which that came out of nowhere because I came up all nervous, and suddenly I felt very connected at home, and being able to actually be seen in that moment clicked something. And from that moment on, we stayed in touch. Like we emailed each other back and forth, and she inspired me to dedicate some time to a consistent yoga and meditation practice, because she became aware that I had a lot of stuff. Like I had a lot of mental blocks, and when I started dedicating more time to myself, a lot of things started becoming clear. A lot of things started coming up for me. And that includes the way I spend my time, the way my energy was going, and if it was being reciprocated. I was no longer able to tolerate the old behaviors anymore. And so this kind of was like the match that started this becoming more aware of like how I was surrounding myself in my environment.
I remember the days of working and going out. I got married young. I was 19. And so I remember I was working for a collection agency and we would go out every Friday at the end of the week and go out for drinks or what have you. And I remember, it can get carried away and it can take over your life. And I remember, I used to go home because I was married and that's where I wanted to be, but I'd go out for a couple of drinks. But I would remember watching some of my employees come in the next day and be like, tired, strung out from from being hungover and just all that. And it's so powerful when you can go to do something like you decide, like what you said, Victoria, is you decided, I'm going to do something for myself. I'm taking myself out of this norm of what I've been doing, and I'm going to go over here and do something for myself. And when we finally can recognize that we have to do that, the things that can come from it are so powerful. Like, and then to right away walk into that space, because you painted the picture that you were not comfortable, something new for you, but you knew you needed to do it. And then to have somebody look at you and like read right through you, recognize that we put this mask on and say, I'm here for you. I've got you. You're okay. It's so powerful when we can receive that too. Because not often, I was just speaking with somebody prior to this, her name's Diane Allen. Not often do we listen to that. Not often do we receive it, right? We put this kind of like this mask and this boundary up and say, I don't want to hear what you're saying. And so I think it's so powerful that you were able to do that and to recognize that, Victoria. And so tell us, like, so we know that you went through a divorce and everything. So where did that then start to lead you down that path of finding yourself, of checking your box, as you would call it?
So I think what I'll do is I'll kind of pick it up from that moment with the teacher on the out the beach. From that point on, after starting to dedicate more time to myself, and everything started becoming very clear about where have I been my whole life? And it literally was a series of checking a checklist. And when I started doing just even the small things for myself and having these experiences, I was like, wow, this is something big. And it did, I was growing as a person. And then eventually, I did one of my other big leaps was launching my business. And then when I launched the business, I was separating and I integrated I had to put my business on pause because during those moments, the months actually, so the months of reestablishing myself and growing from this next new, like whole new chapter, new season, it was, oh my gosh, it was like staring at a blank canvas, but it was my canvas. It was me. And it was, no one else has to tell me how I paint this. No one has to tell me where I hang it. Like, what do I want to do? And for so long, I had been wanting and investing into other people. So to really spend the time getting to know myself and find things that would make me happy was a part of that process.
And I love how you said that was that blank canvas. Like you're like, I've got this canvas and I get to choose how I want to paint it, what colors I want on it, where do I want to go with this? Like, where am I leading myself to? I think that's so amazing. So you've gone through this, you've started your business, and like, as you kind of come through that, you've gone through some rough patches with, you've got to go through a divorce and all these changes. How did you start painting that canvas?
So what came up immediately was romancing yourself, right? So this was while I was going through I was living on my own for the first time. I married young, and this was the first time I was independent. So I was getting used to that. And almost what was interesting, and this is one of those things where you made a choice, and like, I know I'm heading in the right direction. My new home felt like home. And, I didn't have all my furniture yet. But I knew immediately that I was in the right place. So not only did I feel safe in my home, I was like, how can I feel more safe in my body? And I started really prioritizing my health and wellness. So movement is very therapeutic for me. So I started exercising. I started taking baths. I started becoming more mindful about what I'm feeding my body. And then the next step really was starting to do things that I had wanted others to provide for me. And in those cases, it just wasn't going to happen. And it sounds silly now, but I start doing things where I'm like, I could do that. I can do that myself. I can take myself out. I can book the trip. I can take myself to a winery, or, I can do these things on my own. And for so long, it was like this having to overcome this little hurdle of like, in air quotes, like you're doing this alone. And it took me one of the biggest things I did was I booked a trip overseas independently when I was sitting at a restaurant. I was in Paris, and I remember explaining this to somebody, and they looked at me and they're like, "You're not alone. You're free." And I thought that was the most powerful thing I've ever heard. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right," because you don't have to be single. You don't have to be in a, if you're married, you can still do these things. You're allowed to do these things. It's just that we put ourselves on the back burner for so long that when we do have the opportunity to invest in ourselves and do the things that we really want to do, we're hitting these roadblocks. We're like, am I allowed to do this? Do I deserve this? And I finally got to the conclusion of yes, yes, I can. And yes, I will, because this is the life I have. This is my life. And in order for me to show up fully, I need to grant myself this experience, because I know it's going to be amazing. And it's moving through that frequency of love and passion and just investing in yourself.
I love you call it you were romancing yourself, right? And as you're describing it, I was thinking, I'm sure you've heard Miley Cyrus's new song, I don't need you to buy me flowers. As you're saying, I'm like, that song, I don't care why she wrote it, but it's such a powerful song, and it's such a reminder for self-love that we don't have to have somebody take us for dates. And just like you said, I've been married almost 40 years, and I can tell you that I go do staycations I do things on my own, and my husband supports it. He's like, go, we got to find our individuality so we can be together, even as a better unit, right? And so, yeah. And I remember my oldest son one time, he's like, you're letting mom go. And I'm like, no, 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 no. There's no letting me do anything. I choose to do these things. This is my thing, And so that education piece for raising two boys as well, to share that with them, and romancing yourself. And I thought about when you were describing like going out to eat on our own, and that's something we just put on. We think everybody's looking at us, right? I mean, it's like we think, oh, everybody's going to, why is she alone? No. And I love that person told you you're not alone. You're finding yourself. You're not alone. You are right where you're supposed to be. And it's kind of interesting. It reminds me of conversations I have with my mom. She's here visiting me in Tampa. And she was like, I have to dye my hair. I'm like, why are you dyeing your hair to get on an airplane? Because people, I'm like, they don't know you. And if you run into somebody who cares? Put a hat on. I'm like, you're coming here. You're going to go get your hair done when you're here. So you're going to dye it before. Why are we getting your hair done? Right. But we put that false thing on ourselves that, oh, everybody's looking at us. Everybody's watching us. And in reality, they're not really watching us. It's more our perception of everything. It's more how we think everybody sees us, when really it's something we're putting on ourselves. And when we take the mask off, when we start checking our box and we start romancing ourselves, you find somebody that's just so beautiful inside that you kind of forgot who she was, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you take the blinders off, suddenly it's like, I never realized how beautiful the sky was. I never realized how much I appreciate the smell of making coffee. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And I mean, even like I never realized how much I enjoyed sleeping in and not having to worry about somebody else, right? And making that time for somebody else. It's so powerful in that journey. And I love you where did you come up with scientist? I love that you call it self-care scientist.
So the self-love scientist, the scientist part actually comes from, I went to school for science. I went to school to be a forensic scientist. I have a huge, like, my passion. I will be a student for the rest of my life because I love and I admire the way that we're put together, what makes us function, like the power our bodies are capable of holding. And so part of my work and my journey is to continue educating and like experimenting with these different modalities. So not only am I able to provide a stronger space for my clients, but now I have the research, and I read research articles for like women's health and wellness and the yoga certification as well. the self-love component is a huge factor of how I got to where I am now, was prioritizing myself and creating this relationship with myself where I could start doing these things without the guilt, without the shame, and just really recognizing that love is the most powerful frequency. And even with these perceptions, like you said, with going out to eat, people are drawn to your light. People just are, you go into the room and people are like, I don't know why she's smiling. I do want to know though. So people begin to draw in, and when they soak in your pride and your joy, it creates a ripple effect. And that's one of my goals. Like if we were emitting from this state of love, of recognizing our worth, the world would be completely different.
I totally agree with you. I think we would be a totally different world if we could understand that, understand that inner child inside who loves us, but we don't listen to that child too often because we kind of, figure, oh, we're adults now. We don't need to listen to her anymore or him anymore. Right. And I love how you put that together. And so tell us, so how you started your business, how did you start to let everybody know what you did, and how do your clients find you? And then what is their experience like with you?
So when I launched my business, I started with just virtual classes, and that was just marketing online and in the community. And eventually I was able to get my foot in the door with a studio and teach there for a little bit. And when I was coming out of the probably like the final divorce phases, when I was really finally like getting back into my power, and just I was so overwhelmed with like this information. I was like, how can I share? And I just started posting about it. It took me a while to finally open up because it was a very quiet process, as both parties agreed. And finally people were like, what is happening in her life? And I was like, hello, this is me now. And so it became sharing more raw and vulnerable moments because I wanted to create the same experience I had 3 years ago of being seen. So when I speak online or I'm at a networking event, I want the women to know it's like, she sees me. And it's like, I do see you and I love you. And I'm so excited to meet you. And I want to know more. And I have these tools I want to share with you. So that would be like the best way for me to connect with clients was through social media. I've had people come up to me in cafes. One of my favorite cafes, I've had two people come up to me recently. I've never seen them before. And they're like, I saw your, reel the other day. And so I started following you. And just like, and I look forward to your posts every day because I post every day. And so to be able to provide and inspire and educate women and have that same experience of being seen and knowing that there isn't anything wrong with them, that there is someone else out there who's experienced something. And that is how my goal for this past January was to become I would say well established in where I live, but also show up more consistently because I want that message to come out. I want people to recognize that we don't have to be quiet. You don't have to put yourself on the back burner. Like your showing up for yourself is an investment. It is so worth it.
It really is. Showing up for yourself is definitely an investment for sure. And when we don't show up for ourselves, and we're cheating not only ourselves, but we're cheating those around us that can benefit from the talent that you have, Victoria, and to be seen, as you said, we've talked about that a couple of times, like to really be seen as a person that we are. And so it's so important to take that time and do something for ourselves. And so, Victoria, walk us through what's your day like? So we talked about self-care. We talked about putting ourselves first. I think what happens often, and I don't know if you see this, is that especially those that are maybe what I like to call CEO moms or CEO working moms. So I don't like the word stay-at-home mom. You are running a business at home. You're running a business at home and working outside the home. You're a CEO mom. So tell us in the world of Victoria, what is your day like? Like you went through this journey. Now you're checking your box, right? So what is Victoria's day like in self-care? Because often, and I don't know if you've run across this, but I'll have clients go, do you really do what you say you do? And I'm like, yeah, you'll find me sitting on my front porch swing, journaling or meditating. You'll find me having my quiet time here or there. You might try to reach me and I won't answer you. Usually that means I'm doing something for myself. So what's a day like in the life of Victoria?
I love this question. And I love that they asked you that. I actually had someone mention that to me the other day. They're like, how do you do it? How do you how do I constantly show up? And I'm like, I'm always smiling now. And I'm emitting from this place of love because I wake up and I'm grateful. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm here. And so I would say an average almost daily. I choose to get up early. I choose to get up right before the sun comes up. So we're looking at like 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m. maybe. And I choose that. And I have my own personal morning ritual, which consists of meditation, some nice lemon water and tea. And I sit there and I manifest and I put out to the world like what I want to do and how I want to show up and what my return will be for the universe. So if it's like I'm calling this in and in return I will give you this, because it's a full cycle of you give and receive. And I enjoy moving my body, so I'll do a workout. And I enjoy music, so I'll put on some kind of song as I'm playing music. On certain days, one of my other favorite versions of self-love is I use a yoni egg, which helps strengthen the pelvic floor. It's like a Benoit ball. So those are very grounding. And I use that as I'm washing up my face, like getting myself ready for the day to and you can see how I have like my hair curled. I did all this morning because when I started adding this morning routine, it feels like this is the person, like this is the woman I'm becoming. This is how I'm dressed, and being able to show up to that capacity propels me forward. That helps me quantum leap to the next step. And the days I don't do any of this stuff, I know, the days that we don't actually sit in with ourselves, you'll feel it. Kind of feels a little off. And I love breakfast. So I love making myself something with fruit and tea. And then some days I will either be connecting with businesses or collaborating and hosting events. And then I have dedicated days where I see my private clients. I set aside the time to catch up with them, drop in. And in the evening, I enjoy cooking. It's one of my favorite ways to get creative. So I love cooking with colors and spices. And I need every day, this was my goal for the past couple of weeks. I read for 1 hour. And I also listen to a podcast. And sometimes I'll play the podcast in the morning when I'm getting ready, or I'll listen to it while I'm cooking. And that I had substituted that over, I used to like put on a movie or a TV show. And then I started realizing, I was like, I really need to start catching up on stuff I want to, expand my knowledge on and better me or help me market. And sleep is a very important modality for me. And so I have an evening ritual set aside where my phone goes on to do not disturb. I plug it into the charger and I read. And most of the time I read till your head starts teetering. And that's when I know I'm ready to go to sleep. And that could be anywhere from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. But I value my sleep so much because there was a time where I wasn't sleeping well because I was just so all over the place and I was so burnt out and feeling, guilty and disappointed with where I was. And now I get to lay down in my bed every night and I am so grateful. I have a gratitude practice. I say thank you. I'm able to lie there and say, I did what I could today. And tomorrow I get to do something new. Like, what can I do tomorrow? I can't wait to wake up and start the day.
I love that. Was a great picture of the day. And for those that are listening, it's really important that we have those rituals, that we set ourselves up for, and it's not like you're going to do it perfect every day. Like this is Victoria's ideal day. Doesn't mean she's perfectly doing it every day. But the point is that you're doing something for yourself, that you're learning to check that box, as Victoria said, for yourself. And it's really empowering that when we do that, when you start checking your box first, start putting your cape on first, whatever you want to call it, then you're going to show up differently for those you love, your job, whatever that career, whatever that is for you. And it's so powerful when we can do that. So Victoria, I work with clients. They'll tell me, oh yeah, Pearl, yeah, I'll do that. Right. But sometimes we have to, I like to call it, let them see it inside, right? They don't believe that they can check their box themselves. They think people are going to be like, oh, you're selfish. Oh, you don't care about others, right? So how do you work with somebody who's fighting you on that? That's having that kind of tug of war going, yeah, but people might not like that side of me. How do you work and help people see that box being checked first is so powerful?
Could you ask the question again?
Yes. So you have somebody that's fighting you on going, yeah, Victoria, I hear check that box first, but really people think I'm selfish. People make me feel guilty when I check my box first. How do you guide your clients through understanding the importance of checking that box first?
Oh, I bring it back to them. You bring it back to them because that's unfortunately, like it's normal for people to be people pleasers, and I was there myself. It was like, what are people going to think of me? Even when I started my business, when I went for my divorce, I was like, oh man. And I've gotten to a point where it's not about them. It's about you. And I can sit there and tell you what to do. And the clients that, when we do homework and we schedule our next follow-up and I go, hey, did you get to this point? And if they're truthful, they're like, you know what, I didn't. And we're gonna explore that because there might be some kind of block of some kind or shame that is underneath that isn't yours. It's just something that it's uncommon. It's uncomfortable for us to put ourselves in a situation where it's like some people are afraid to spend time with themselves. They're like, how do I get out of my head? And that's where a lot of the inner work comes in. Like you said, the inner child, like, how do I bring her back? How do I step into this person that I want to be without compromising my relationships? And the thing is, the most important relationship you need to have right now is the one with yourself. Because when you show up for yourself, then you will be able to show up for others and people will pick up and feed on that.
Yeah, and it's so powerful to understand that too. Is that when we show up for others, people are going to feed off of that. And I like what you said. You're talking about our inner child. So when I first learned to meditate, my dear friend Sharon, she's a meditation coach. So she has a 30-day program to help you learn to meditate. And there's no music. It's just the quietness of your mind. Right. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do that. I can't sit still with my mind. And now I find myself up to an hour sometimes just sitting still with my thoughts, my eyes closed, and just being like mindful of what the thoughts are in my head, the things I want to accomplish, what do I want to manifest, and all of that. And it's so powerful when we can start tuning into who we are. Those superpowers in us start to come out and they start to shine, and we start to accomplish things that, wow, I wanted that goal, but I didn't realize how much I wanted that goal, or I wanted to manifest that, but it was always there, but I just kept ignoring it. Right. I think that's so, so powerful, which leads me to right now, Victoria, what we're doing. I have a community. It's called the Shira League. It's a community of women where we get together every Sunday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. and we work on self-care things. We work on finding joy, happy, what the not to do list and just different things like that. And so this month we've been really honing in on the what brings you joy. And so what I want to ask Victoria is some of the homework we're having the girls do. We're going to do a little shift over to self-care with Victoria right now, because one of the things that I would like to know, Victoria, is if I said to you, you're going to make a list, Victoria, of 10 things that bring you joy. But I really want to know what the top 3 things are that are bringing you joy right now. What would those 3 things be and why?
Ooh, that's a big one. The first thing that came up for me was my work. And the reason why my work brings me so much joy is when I'm sitting in the sacred space that I've created with a client, whether it's through coaching or yoga, and I can see them going through the changes and I'm receiving their experiences, whether it's if we cry together, if they need to like yell, and it's within a few hours or throughout the weeks of the sessions, and just watching them become a version of themselves that they didn't know was possible, but now they're like, to educate and empower women and to hype them up. Like for me, my approach is like, it's not client coach, it's girlfriend to girlfriend, soulmate to soulmate. Like being in that kind of energy fills me up every time. And like, it's always what I need because they're teaching me in some kind of way. Like, everybody's experiences are different. Everyone's experiences are different. And yet there's always a part of us inside that person, because like even right now, like there's a part of me that's sharing with you. So immediately I thought of my work because like every time I get up, I'm like, I love what I do. I'm so glad I'm here and I can be this person. I can be the one to hold space because it was not available for me for many years. And so there's that. I think a pretty cool, pretty like simple answer, but the second thing that brings me joy, would you want to know like in terms of self-care maybe or just
Just
overall?
the top three things. It doesn't matter. Like anything in your life right now that's bringing you joy.
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking of literally oh wow.
So while you're thinking about that, I want to point it out to everybody that see, even as a coach, sometimes we struggle with what these things are, right? Or there's so many things that bring us joy that it's, that we like break down the top three things in our life that bring us joy.
Yeah. I literally like immediately I thought about this morning how I love a great cup of coffee and it could be coffee or tea and I think what I said earlier like I never realized how much I love the smell and like actually enjoying the cup versus like throwing it back and then going for a second one like I actually take my time and in those moments of just enjoying my coffee or tea brings me a lot of joy because I it gets me to a point where, sometimes we get really busy. But when I'm sipping my coffee, I'm standing or sitting in my chair and I look around my house and I'm like, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. Like this is mine. This is possible. So I'm like looking at my cup and I'm like, oh yeah, coffee, tea helps me ground in my gratitude practice.
And see, that's really important to understand. Like those are so the thing too that she's sharing, you guys, what Victoria's sharing is that there's things that in our life that may be a tangible thing, but as we hold that tangible thing or we have space with it, it reminds us of those things that bring us joy, like gratitude, being thankful for what we have, being thankful for checking our box first, as Victoria's been sharing. So can you think of a third one, Victoria?
I did. Actually, I would say what brings me joy like right now would be the sun. Like waking up and then going throughout the day and then just being outside and feeling the sun rays on my face, even though like we're in that weird February of like, is it spring yet? Is it winter? When it's a blue sunny day, it gives me that I get to tuck away and go for a walk, or when I'm in between different calls or meetings, I find myself walking a lot more. And so like you said, it's this one thing that kind of drips down to a lot of other opportunities. So right now I'm grateful for this beautiful golden light in the sky to remind me of like just how beautiful this universe is.
Yeah, nature can bring so many things to us that make us just feel so warm inside, from the sun to the moon. There's so many things about nature that does that. And I know from being, you're in the DC area and I used to live in that area. I know that this is that time of the year where is the sun coming out or is it going to snow? I remember that month of February going, what's it going to do this month to us? I love that. And so I want to thank you for playing along with us, because now we're going to go to if you thought that was hard, Victoria, just wait. So now, thinking of those things that you share that brings you joy, your work you do with your clients, nature, and then gratitude. Tell us on your not to do list, what things are on your not to do list that you have to make sure that are on that list so that you can enjoy your joy, the things that bring you joy. So like for gratitude, what has to be on the not to do list to make sure you're enjoying the gratitude of your life? And for your clients, and then like for nature, share with us your top three things on your not to do list so that you can live the life you want to live.
That's on my not to do list. So things I just don't do or
Yeah, so many times we make a list of things we have to do. I got to go grocery shop. I got to go clean the house. We make those lists, but we forget to make that not to do list. What are the things that I don't want to do because they're not going to bring me joy? Like we were talking earlier, like being a people pleaser. One of my big things is my not to do list is to not people please, to not let others direct how my day is going to go, right? To only do the things that if it's going to stop me from doing the things that, finding gratitude, being with nature, whatever, that has to be on that list.
Okay. Yeah, I am not going to shrink myself. I am not going to shrink myself. And I say that because when I announced my coaching program and how a part of my coaching is, learning to romance yourself. And for women, it's activating that femme sacred sexual energy. A lot of people were like, wait, what? No, don't say that. And I was like, no, I am here. I'm here in my full. So that is on my not to do list, is to shrink or dim my light. I am not going to do all the things, if that makes sense. I think about like here's a good example if I can elaborate, but we have that to-do list, the get to-do list, and sometimes I'm able to read my body where it's like we should stop because you value sleep because you do this, and so it's easier for me, like I don't it's okay that I don't have all the answers today, so I am not going to burn out for the sake of like who wins from that, because I won't and my clients won't win if I can't show up. And I would say, thirdly, I'm not going to settle. I'm just going to keep growing.
I love that you're not going to settle. That is so powerful. And oftentimes we do. We often settle for, okay, well, if that's how it's going to be, then okay, I'll do that. Right. Or if I
Yeah.
want to stay up later, not settling for, with your boundaries. It's so powerful that I'm not going to settle. I love that you shared that, Victoria. I want to thank you for playing along with me. So it's going to lead to
Yeah.
my next question. And that is, so what is coming for Victoria? What's on the horizon over the next few months for you?
Oh my gosh. I have been playing a lot with ever since I started connecting more with my community, I really feel I love to plan a speaking event of some kind, something big. And I have spoken at a few businesses before about like integrating a morning ritual, self-love, and I would love to put together an event or attend an event and come on as a speaker to talk about these things that are so taboo, from divorce to pleasure or self-love. And I putting myself out there like it's just inspired me to educate more. Like I don't want to keep myself from like I can educate here. I'm like I could educate everywhere. So I made the comment the other day with a friend of mine, and I said, yeah, I just did a gig, and I said it's only a matter of time before I'm on TED Talk, right? And I giggled, and then I was like, that could be me though. So I see myself speaking more at events, and I get excited about that because it's just something I never saw before. And all it takes is just that little bit of, I said yes to something. I was like, yeah, I could do that. And I had a lot of fun. And right now, my coaching program is for women. My ideal clients are women from a certain age group and they're in their masculine, busy working. And I also would love to open up a coaching program for men. So I'd love to get that launched within the next 6 to 8 months as well. And I would say maybe a little bit further down the line, a book to tell my story, because I feel that there are a lot of people out there who it'll resonate in some way, whether it's, I've got stories and experiences that it could fill a book, and I'm not done yet. I'm just saying that this is only the beginning, from putting boundaries up with my parents to going through divorce to growing into this version of myself in which I'm like, I love where I'm at authentically and truthfully.
So you said, I love that those are great goals, like the books. Everybody has a story. We have to share our story, have to get it out, because somebody's going to learn from the lessons that we have to share in our books and our stories as we put them out there. Now you said something and it resonated with me, and that was setting boundaries around your parents. And as somebody who had to set boundaries around her father, that really pulled at my heartstring, because my oldest is mixed race. And when he was little, we adopted him. My parents were all in. They were just, my dad just loved him to death. But as he got older and I always grew up thinking maybe my dad might be a little racist, but didn't know that he really was until he came to live with us. My parents divorced after 43 years of marriage, and he was living with us, and my dad became very racist towards my son. So, and later he moved out, he got married and he moved out. And I found out years later after that, some of the things that he'd done to my son when he was living with us. And I literally had to write an obituary. I sent it to my brother, my sister, my nephews. I did an obituary of my father being my father, and so that's powerful. And it's hard, as a daddy's girl, it's hard our parents, Father Bill from my church at St. Stephen's, he said, we don't get to pick our parents, but we love our parents. And you have a ball game of life. And sometimes they have to sit in the bench if they can't play by the rules. And sometimes you let them back in. And sometimes they just have to be retired, right? And so that helped to guide me through that. So Victoria, I know you shared a little bit about that. And so I love that you shared. So I think it's important too, let's just talk about boundaries for a second, that we do have boundaries around people, relationships, things that keep us from being the person who we want to be. And that's part of also what I coach on. I'm sure you've coached on that too, where you have to set those boundaries so that you can continue to check that box for yourself first. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
It's
And sharing that. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, so I just wanted to just kind of touch on that because listeners that are listening, boundaries are so important around relationships and what you will accept and not accept. And sometimes it applies to not only our parents, but it may apply to our children, and that as well. So I want to thank you for sharing. Okay, so now we're going to get into our next segment, which is our cards, Victoria. And so we're going to shuffle our cards. I gave Victoria a little warning of this. So these are Better Questions, Better Life cards. You can go to betterquestionsbetterlife.com and you can order them. I am not an affiliate. I don't get any credit. My two friends did these cards and I love them. There's 77 different cards with 77 different questions on there that we need to be asking ourselves during the day. You can meditate on them. You can journal on them, whatever. You can just have it for motivation for the day. These are great cards for kids. These are great cards for families and marriages as well. So I'm going to shuffle these cards and Victoria's going to tell me when to stop. So here we go, Victoria.
Stop.
Okay. So Victoria question is, this is a good one. I like this. What and who is influencing you?
Ooh.
I love these cards because they are they make you think. So take your time. I'm going to talk about the cards for a second while you do that. So the cards are really meant to do exactly what Victoria's feeling right now, like to really resonate with you. They're to push you, to challenge you, to think, about what the card's asking you. And the thing is that I bring these cards to my retreats. We do a pajama retreat every year in September, Victoria. And we have these cards. Carol, one of the authors of the cards, she helps me with my retreats. And we always use these cards and people will go, oh, I don't like this card, but that means that card was really meant for you when you say that. So have you thought about what and who is influencing you?
So I'll start with the who part. When you asked that, I immediately thought of the woman I was 3 years ago. And I also thought of the woman I am becoming down the line. And I think it's them. And it's also, I'm influenced to do the hard things by other thought-provoking leaders. I have a business coach that inspires me and has helped me build a voice to speak out on my passions. And then I do think about where I was. And when I think about what I've overcome, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know why I overthought that. I could totally do this now. And that could be anything from when I'm posting something that might be a little controversial or just putting myself out there in general, like at events or introducing myself when people aren't used to, they're like, I'm sorry, what do you do again? So, and putting up those boundaries, when I think back on like, oh no, it's okay for me to say no, it's okay for me to stay aligned with my values. And I would say what influences me to keep going would be when I meet with these women or when I'm with a client. There's a client especially that I think about to this day. We started working together a few weeks ago, and I'll never forget. I saw myself in her, and she was like, I didn't know I was allowed to. I didn't know that. And so when I think about how showing up every day, I was like, I need to get my message out. I need to educate because it wasn't available for me and it wasn't available for her, which means it's not available for other women either. And I have something important to say.
I love that you started out with your old self is influencing you. I love that you shared that because we have to remember that those are lessons that our old self teaches us. Those lessons that we've gone through, mistakes, triumphs, whatever those are. We have to remember that those can also shape us and can define us and help create the next path of where we're going in our life. I love that you share that. And getting out there, yes, because we need more women like yourself, Victoria, that are out there sharing to the world. It's okay if you haven't been checking your box first, because now it's time. It's okay to say, this is how I want to check my box first. And then to coach women on how to communicate that. I think what happens often is we forget that our family and our loved ones want us to take care of ourselves. We forget that because we put this false pretense that we're going to be selfish. People are going to think we don't care. But really, when we can learn to communicate with those we love or our job or whatever that is, your career, and communicate our realistic expectations, then people can understand, be like, I got you. How can I support you? Where do you need help on that? Right. I love to use the analogy that if you weren't here tomorrow, I mean, my son's forever 25. As of July of last year, we lost our son, Matthew. And it's such a profound lesson that I share with everybody, is like, that happened in, such a tragic way. Who would have thought that I would not outlive my son? But the lesson for me is, I'm not promised the next 30 seconds, right? So if I'm not here in the next 30 seconds, and if something happens to you, and all your family and friends could do at your eulogy is say what they saw you do for yourself, what are they going to say? Like, are they going to say they saw Victoria reflect on what her life was like and went out and took that lesson she learned about not checking her box first and paid it forward to the world? That we saw her help another lady who was just like herself. She saw herself in her. And this woman is now like going, wow, I can accomplish the things that I want to do. I can put myself first without guilt. Like, if you can't think of a couple of things like that, then you need to work with a coach. You need somebody like Victoria or myself to help guide you through. It's okay to check your box first. It's okay to set those realistic expectations for yourself and do it without guilt. And it's all about communicating with those we love. So I love, Victoria, that you shared that old self, like going back, that she's influencing you as well. I think that was very powerful.
Thank you. And that is an amazing question, Pearl. Like, and you're right, we're not promised tomorrow. And I think I use that to, I remember thinking about that actually, like recently. I was like, I'm not promised tomorrow. So I'm going to do what I can today. And as I'm doing it, it's not from that mindset of like, I'm not promised tomorrow. It's more like, I'm so grateful for the now and how I wish to live through that. So I think that was a beautiful question.
Thank you. I just love that. Just, one of the things that stood out for me, that the lesson I learned from my son's passing, is not only that, but also to reach out to those you haven't spoken. We hear so much about mental fitness and everything in the world, and people not feeling like anybody's around them. But after my son passed, we had two of his friends show up at our doorstep. They didn't know he passed, and they were just stopping by to visit him and see him. And one hadn't talked to him in a while. They had a little disagreement. They didn't really have a falling out, just hadn't talked for a while. And when I saw that, I was like, also call somebody. Like, call somebody that's on your heart, you haven't talked to in a while, just check on them. So now I've made a commitment to myself that if somebody comes across my feed and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen or heard from them in a while, I pick up the phone and I check on them, because you just don't know what people are going through. And I think it's powerful that we not only take care of ourselves, but remember to pay that forward. Remind everybody else that, hey, are you taking care of yourself? What have you done for yourself today? If you have that friend or family member that's always people pleasing, reach out to them and ask them what have they done for themselves, because it's really, really powerful. And as Victoria shared today, checking your box first is so powerful, because you're not promised the next 30 seconds. So what are you doing to check your box first? So Victoria, I've loved having you on today. I can't believe our time is like flown by already. It's gone by so fast.
Oh, yeah.
And so before I forget, tell everybody where they can find you, Victoria.
I am on Instagram at Victoria_Icenhower, and that's spelled ICENHOWER. That's where I'm most active. I am also on Facebook at Victoria Icenhower Lotus Lifestyle. I do have a TikTok that's victorias.secret, and my temporary website is msha.ke. That's msha.ke/Lotus Lifestyle. And I have an email as well. So anyone who's like, I don't like social media, I've had a few clients who are like, ew, no, get me off. You can email me at victoria.lotuslifestyle@gmail.com.
And we'll make sure all of that is available to everybody as they watch this and listen to us. They'll have all access to that. So it's been so much fun having you on. And we've been talking about self-care today. So I want to remind you that if you are not sure where you are landing in your self-care, we have a free survey. It's pearlsurvey.com. That's PEARLSSURVEY. pearlsurvey.com. Go on there and see where your score is. See how you're showing up in your self-care. And then we can talk if you want to build on that self-care score and make it improve it even better. But I just want to remind you guys again, as you come into this world, you are this rough oyster on the outside, and we have to massage it a little bit, grow it. But as you open up that shell inside, you find your inner pearl. And I hope you go find your inner pearl of greatness. Have a great day. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I just wanted to come on and check in with you, see how you're doing, and just make sure that you truly are looking and finding your inner pearl of greatness. And so today's just going to be about some lessons for you around how you become your Shiro self. Like, really, how do you find that time for you that you can put yourself first without any guilt? And so I want to talk to you about that because, oftentimes we as women, we take care of everything else before we put something for ourselves on the time, on our planner. And so I want to talk to you about that. Why? Like, when was the last time you really challenged yourself to like step away? Because you are a Shiro, you are powerful, and you are amazing. And sometimes we feel so overwhelmed that we don't feel that way, right? That we feel like, we're not working in our purpose of our power and our passion. And, we're not getting ourselves that time to pause and reflect and really like create and develop our roadmap for our expectations, for our journey that we want for ourselves. So I want to ask you this. I want you to consider this. I want you to think about, is there been a time when you wanted to take time for yourself and you just said, I'll put it on my calendar. And then when it came time for your calendar, you said, oh, I can't do it. I got to get the kids to practice. I've got to go to this event. My husband needs help with this thing at work, or I'm tied to my job and we've got this deadline to meet. I want you to really think that, there is a woman who is a hero for everybody else freely. Like we pour into others so much, so freely that truly our identity and our focus becomes that for the other person. And we're putting our focus and our identity on a shelf, right? We freely accept it, that despite how we might feel in the moment, that it's okay to put ourselves on the shelf. So I want to give you some thoughts and some steps about really, showing up for yourself and saying yes to yourself and not trying to please others, right? Because so often we are that person. We become that people pleaser. We say yes to everybody else so excitedly now, but you don't say yes to yourself as excitedly. Like you feel guilty, right? Do you ever feel guilty when you say no to somebody because you're like, oh, they're not going to like me. They're going to think that I don't care for them. They're going to think that I'm selfish, all those things, right? And, because we show up for others so much and not for ourselves often, it can feel like we're not worthy, right? And I wonder if that sounds like you. If that sounds like you, I want to give you a couple of steps to just put yourself first without guilt. Okay. So the first one is, as women, we feel guilty when we do for ourselves, right? We feel guilty if we go get our nails done, or we feel guilty if we go out for a walk, or we go out for dinner with a friend, or maybe like me, you go for a staycation where you grab a hotel that's near the house. Like for me, I live in Florida, so I'll grab a hotel at the beach and go spend the night. So maybe you feel guilty for doing that because you feel like, oh, I got to leave the kids behind, or the spouse, or they're going to think I'm being selfish because I'm doing for me. So I want to tell you, first of all, there's some things you can do to overcome that. So let's say you are a CEO mom. And so those that are listening to me the first time, when I say CEO mom, I don't like the word stay-at-home mom, because you are a CEO mom, because even if you are at home running the house business, which is why I call you a CEO mom, you have a job to do. And that's making sure the business of the home is running the way it needs to. So let's say you're that CEO mom and you have kids that, you want to spend time with, but you feel like there's not enough time in the day. So let's start with they're little. If they're little kids, like, under say 8 years old, right? Maybe you sit down and watch a silly TV show. When my kids were little, it was Barney, right? Sit down and watch a silly TV show with them and just be engaged with them, because you're going to laugh at the crazy show. You're going to spend time with your little one, but you're also going to be taking some time out for yourself. So that's one of the steps you can do with your children. If your kids are a little older, so when I finally realized that I mattered and I had to do something for me first, my kids were a little older. So my oldest one, he loved to go get his toenails done because he played football and he had football toes. So we would go for mani-pedi together. He'd get the pedi, I'd get the mani-pedi. And it was giving myself time to take care of myself and have self-care. But at the same time, my son Matthew was spending time with me, and we would chit chat and talk about what was happening. We might talk about the football game upcoming or the one that just passed. We might talk about girls, whatever that is, right? him and I also had a code word for spending time together. And that was, let's go for sushi. So that would tell me that he wanted to have conversations with me. Right. So my younger son, Nate, he's not into mani-pedis. He could not be bothered with any of that, but he loves to go to the movies. So we would go and catch a movie together. And we still do that to this day. He'll be like, what new movie is coming out? What do you want to see, Mom? And we'd go catch that movie together. So that's something you can do with your kids. Like find something that you can enjoy doing that they maybe would like to do with you, and you're spending time with them. Okay. Now, when it comes to your spouse or significant other, it's kind of the same thing. Maybe catch a movie at home. Like my husband and I, even today, we find a lot of stuff on Netflix and we'll sit down and we'll watch the movie on Netflix, right? Or maybe you coordinate once a month, you're going to go out on a date and take turns picking. He picks this month, you pick next month. Neither one of you can complain about what the other picked, but you've picked something to go do. Okay. So those are some things you can do with your loved ones when it comes time for self-care and not feeling guilty. Right. So then that way, when you do want to go do something for yourself, like a staycation or go to the movies by yourself, that guilt, you can release that guilt because you are finding time to spend with them as well. Okay. So those are just some simple steps you can do when it comes to your family. But let's talk about your job, okay, your professional career. So let's say that you're at work and you've got this big project to get done and you're in charge of a team, okay? So one of the things I used to do is I wanted to make sure that my team all had a responsibility of the project that we were doing. So when I worked for a big corporation, each person had a piece of that pie because you can't run the whole machine together. You've got to have help. So find what works, what their talents are, and give them that piece of the pie that will outshine their talents. Okay. And then make sure that you, along with them, are taking breaks out to collaborate, whether it's, hey, let's go grab some lunch together and collaborate, or maybe you go outside the building and go for a quick walk around the building. I did this at the big corporation I worked with. I would send my team out to go for walk breaks. And my other team leads from other departments are, how can you do that? Why are you doing that? And I'm like, listen, if you look at my department's goals, we're hitting our goals, which means they're working hard. I need them to be all in, not be tired. So I would also go each day with one different group and I'd go for a walk with them and just chat with them. How are they doing? What's going on? What's happening in their world? We wouldn't talk about what's happening in the project, just how are they doing? So that's another way that you can, at your professional level, do something for yourself while you're engaging with your team as well. Okay. And if you are an entrepreneur, let's say you own your own business and you're overwhelmed with all these things to get done, I'm going to challenge you to look and see what are some of the things you're doing in your business that you actually might be able to benefit from having a virtual assistant, right? So my business coach, Julie DeLuca Collins, helped me understand what my value is per hour. So once you take that per hour value and you say, filing paperwork is not worth $300 an hour. So maybe you have a virtual assistant that helps you electronically file your stuff. Find somebody that can do those things that takes up time for you building your business. And then also make sure you are taking time out during the day to go for a walk, do meditation, something that helps you pour into yourself while you're pouring into your business. So those are some tips I want to just teach you and share with you that I know I do for my self-care. So I don't feel overwhelmed. So I don't feel like I'm on the shelf, because when you put yourself on the shelf, you can't become that hero of your life. You can't become that self-made hero and have balance in your life with boundaries that you set and how to incorporate them without guilt. So I just want to share some of that with you because, you guys are amazing, amazing individuals. You're beautifully and wonderfully made, and you deserve everything that's waiting for you. But when we don't open our eyes to what's around us, we don't allow ourselves time for ourselves, you can't pour into others. You can't pour into your career if you don't pour into yourself first. So I just want to share that with you. And I want to invite you, if any of this resonates with you, I would love to invite you to we have a Shiro League. You can come once every Sunday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to come and just visit with us, we always have an open house opportunity. You can join us. It's at a Sunday evening, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can come in your PJs. It's a great way to end your week and start your new week. You can do that as well. So if you want that information, just go to pearl@wsliving.com. Again, pearl@wsliving.com, and email me and I can get you the link to join us. But if you want to look at some more of these steps that I've done, I would love for you to just go download my ultimate guide to self-care, and some additional steps are in there. And that's at pearlsebook.com. That's pearlsebook.com. And I hope you guys know that you come into this world as this beautiful, beautiful oyster. We're a little rough on the outside, but on the inside, you have this amazing pearl. And I just want you to know that you are this amazing pearl, and I hope you find your inner pearl of greatness. Have a great day.